Okay, how is everybody doing? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are. It's like a Truman Show. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Okay, today we're gonna do Paul Reubens. Are you guys excited? You guys excited to do Paul Reubens? Let's do a little bit of a lesson. Let's do some exploring. Let's do an exploring lesson because I like to talk out things to learn my own self. I was thinking what we could talk about is a quick lesson on biases. So I just wanted to say, have you ever been wrong? I know I've been wrong, and it's been one of those things that sounds so decider. I know I've been dumb and wrong before, and I will be dumb and wrong again. But I think it's a really good lesson with biases because I think the mechanism of biases is that we are all convinced within 30 seconds of seeing something and getting something. And it's just really easy to forget that our brain does that and then doesn't really let go of that information. It wants our biases, our 30-second biases, to be correct. It wants to hurry up with the decision making. It wants to hurry up with the observations and be able to move on. It doesn't want life to be complicated. It doesn't want us to have to slow down. It doesn't want us to have to take in. It doesn't want us to have to make sure that we keep that door open to assume that we might be incorrect on something and to keep that kind of status of like, you know what, I have been wrong before. I have missed information before. I've been completely wildly incorrect. In fact, I'm so scared that I'll be incorrect that I'm slamming down again and not even realizing I'm doing it as we speak. I'm going all in, and that is going to bite me in the future. And I think a lot of us have felt that feeling before. Hopefully you've had the beauty and the luck of being able to see yourself in a completely different light. Have you ever been wrong about yourself? I've been wildly wrong about myself. I've been wildly wrong about others. And I've certainly been wildly wrong about information or guesses or even facts that I assumed were facts, been completely incorrect about those as well. So I think acknowledging that your past self is not even wildly different than your current self, that your past self made some mistakes and your current self can make some mistakes as well. As long as we don't get freaked out by that, that allows us to learn. I think those of us that are bad at learning have a really hard time accepting that we could be wrong even today. I think that that's one of the things that owning and learning biases can do for us. It can allow us to accept that you might even be wrong right now, and that's totally normal and that's totally healthy to accept that. And therefore, going forward, you have the capacity to be like, oh, good thing I didn't go all in. I now can receive the information that is correct so that I can actually move forward. So, why am I bringing this up? Why am I making a big deal about biases? Well, Paul Reubens, let's put him on the screen here. Paul Reubens, as we know him, is Peewee Herman, right? So that's how we know Paul Reubens, right? So our biases, we don't even really know how much we have biases on Peewee Herman, or I'm sorry, Paul Reubens, I'm sorry, Peewee Herman, because we knew him growing up. If you watched the Peewee Herman show, which I did, like this is how you know him. And as many of these actors, you engage with their persona and you engage with this person that they expect you to see them as, right? And so now you're asking yourself, well, of course I know Paul Reubens because I know Pee-wee Herman and I've watched that show and I've seen him for so many years. So obviously I can't be fooled. I know this person. Well, when you look at Pee-wee Herman, this is going to trip me up. When you look at Pee-wee Herman, what do you think? You think number 4, right? Social friends, absolutely buddies with everybody, being able to get along. And this is the game that he plays. This just spend time with me, hang out with me. This is what I want. I want this buddy time, I want this hangout time. That's who Pee-wee Herman is, right? Is Paul Reubens Pee-wee Herman? Is he playing a character or is that who he is on screen, off screen? And it would take a lot of like sorting out, calming down, sifting through this. Now, I'm using this example because it's a really obvious one. Of course, you're going to be able to sort out if you've been practicing typing really quickly when you go watch Paul Rubin. That's kind of been the game of objective typing, is to slow down, listen to the person, get to know them, get outside of your one-dimensional perspective and actually be able to listen to the other person, see who they are, And then, of course, it is understanding and owning the parts, the definitions of the parts, the root core patterns instead of just the anecdotes. So all that stuff is still there. So if you've been paying attention, you know that this is kind of an easy one, that Peewee Herman is not necessarily going to automatically be Paul Reubens. Kind of have to be able to sort out the difference between the two, right? So this was an easy one. This was an obvious one as far as that biases game goes. So I wanted to pick on this example because I thought that this was a really good one. So let's go watch Paul Reubens, not Peewee Herman, because if we watch Peewee Herman, we would get confused real fast, right? We'd be like, this is easy. This guy's obviously buddy, friends time. So let's go watch an actual video of him and see what he says about himself. Now, keep in mind, by the way, we're only getting this snapshot many years after he was playing this character. He was even saying that in so many interviews and so many deals that he was having to do with executives, that he was still playing Peewee in real life. He was playing that character in real life. So that's something that you're going to have to recognize in the future. We just have the luck of being able to actually see the real Paul Reubens in this interview. So keep that in mind when you're watching something that seems a little exaggerated, a little weird, a little, I feel like it's like Halloween costume style. That anything that starts going into like video game, Halloween costume, you're seeing somebody faking it. You're seeing somebody playing a character and almost having like drag, like this is their drag character. They are acting, right? And so you'd have to really suss out, am I getting the person when they're at home, hanging out with their family in their PJs? Is this who I'm really seeing? Or am I seeing a false character? You really have to kind of pay attention to that and recognize, I've been wrong before. Let me not slam down my immediate biases because I'm in a hurry, right? Okay, so now that you have all of that loaded, let's go watch actually Paul Reubens. Luckily, we have an interview of him for realsies. We have an actual character of him. So let's watch him. Let me remove this. Remove, add, and then I'll make me small, and then we'll watch a little bit of the real Paul Reubens, not Peewee Herman. Okay, let's get started.
When did it become important for you to have the audience believe that Peewee was a real person, or to not see the man behind the character?
At a certain point, very soon after, if not the night that Peewee Herman was born, the reaction was so different to that character than any other character I had done. And I had 15 or 20 other characters, pretty strong characters at the Groundlings. But I just knew somehow, I just had this funny feeling like, concentrate on this. This is what you should be doing. I always felt like there was an element of performance art to Peewee Herman that I would try to make the public believe that was a real person.
Performance art.
So I guess it was really only performance art to me because no one ever knew at the time that I was a different person. I was always billed as Peewee Herman. I did my interviews as Peewee Herman. I went many years without ever being photographed out of character. Until one day when I was photographed out of character. And I always felt that really what I did in that way was why everything turned out so extreme. I felt like there was just such a strong juxtaposition between like my mugshot and my Peewee pictures, and there was nothing ever in between that. So, you know, in hindsight, I could say maybe that backfired, but I don't really believe that because I have no regrets really about anything other than turning down to host the White House Easter egg hunt under Reagan. And in hindsight, I should have said yes because I was never invited again. Even in very inside show business circles, I would go in and pitch movie ideas or go have a meeting at a studio with the president of the studio, and they would talk to me like I was Peewee Herman in the meeting. They would say, "We're going to pay you $25, Peewee. What do you think?" And it'd be really odd, but.
Your career, you would talk about film and the Groundlings, and your career really could have gone off in a different direction as you auditioned for Saturday Night Live.
The Peewee Herman show was 100% created out of spite for not getting Saturday Night Live, and terror and panic, because I really felt like I was in this kind of up-and-comer category at the time where I was being spotlighted in little sections of magazines and stuff, like a guy to watch out for kind of thing. Yeah. And I flew to New York to be one of the 22 finalists in the season that included Joe Piscopo and Eddie Murphy and those people. And Gilbert Gottfried was the person who kind of took the slot. And on the plane, on the way back, I totally panicked. I thought, like, I'm going to go from up-and-comer to, you know, nothing. And I just thought you better really do something about this and take control. So
Nothing.
I became a writer and a producer and a director out of, I felt like necessity. I still produce and I still write, and I may or may not direct. I don't know yet about that, but it's all stuff I don't really want to do. I'd rather not be a writer because writing's really hard for me. But anybody out there who's considering writing, you should totally go for it. I think that's my biggest thing I tell people who ask, like, how did you make it, or what would your advice be? Just as a quick aside, Big Adventure is sometimes now taught in screenwriting classes because it follows such a classic format. And the reason for that is because I'd never written a movie before. I bought Sid Field's The Screenplay, and and we did exactly what they said. And it's a 90-minute film. It's a 90-page script. On page 30, I lose my bike. On page 60, I find it. I mean, it's literally exactly what they said to do in the book. There should be like a MacGuffin kind of a thing. There should be something you're looking for. I was like, okay, my bike. I was walking with the producers of the film on the lot one day, and I complained every day when we would walk to lunch. Because everybody on a movie lot, as you probably all know, rides bikes, and so.
Okay, I'm going to pause it right there because I think this next story is going to be interesting. He's going to talk about how he's complaining to who? Who is he complaining to, right? Is there somebody above him? Question mark. But I want to stop here for a second because I want to go over this information first. Let's go over the first information that we've gathered, right? Okay. Now, who are we seeing? Are we seeing Peewee Herman anymore? I'm not. It's a wild difference, right? He's even calmly, very much talking and explaining Peewee was performance art. Like, this is great. I love hearing this extreme honesty. And how would you know the difference, right? So we talk a lot about emotional state. We talk a lot about somebody's baseline, somebody's savior state, somebody's demon state. And when you own the core or the patterns or the connections or the meaning around what does the savior state look like, what does the demon state look like, and you fully can understand that somebody in a demon state can literally be dressed like Peewee Herman. Why? Because it's not calm, normal, obvious, boring, and responsible. Like, that's one of the things that you're going to notice about somebody in a savior state is it is boring, it is calm, it is obvious, it is easy, it's not stretched, it's not exaggerated, it's not weird, it's not the Halloween version of the person, it's not the video game version of the person. It's just boring and real, right? So calm, obvious, boring, and real. Okay, so that's what savior state looks like. Now, why did I choose this interview? Because it's savior state. He is calm. It's very easy. He's answering questions like it's no big deal. He's joking. He's at near the end, like the end of his career. He's not at the beginning of this career. He's not trying to prove something to you. He's not trying to be someone that he's not. He's not showing up in a costume. He's just being himself, right? But he is saying, just so you know, that was performance art. And I showed up to, business meetings as Peewee, signing on for, I'll take that $25 to do that job with my jokey, silly laugh, right? And my little outfit, right? So that's very, very interesting. Very, very interesting how you're seeing the difference between the two, right? So always be aware of the difference between a savior and a demon state. This is savior state. This interview is a savior state. His entire career as Peewee was him in a demon state. He's not playing himself. He's playing a character. So good to know, right? And I think the beautiful thing about this is exactly what we do when we are trying to put on a show. This is what everyone does. They want you to see a certain version of themselves. And so they do all the right things. They say all the right things. But guess what? People can only hold on to that, and they can only hold their breath for so long. And it usually looks exaggerated and weird. And so if you can look for savior and demon state, you can now know the difference, right? Also, the first thing I'm noticing is, how does he feel? Does this guy feel like a friend, or does he feel flexy? Now, what does that even mean? Like, how do you even know the difference between flexy? Well, he's DI. So can't we just go along with that he's DI? Okay, maybe we just say he's DI, and that's where this attitude of I know what I'm doing, and I'm being jokey in a sarcastic and snarky and elitist way. Maybe that's just coming from his DI. Yes, but we know a lot of DIs that are not like that at all, right? What about Pedro? Pedro Pascal is one of my favorite examples of a number 4 that's double activated masculine DI that's not like that, okay? So when you can compare somebody who is, I absolutely am the one that is the buck stops here and I'm the one looking from my perspective and making my decisions. That's what DI is. And a 4 like Pedro Pascal, what's the difference? Okay, so this is a pretty extreme difference. What is it? What does it look like? What does it mean to be flexy? It's a little bit braggy. I know, I hate it. I have it and I hate it. Ugh, gross, but that's what it is. It is. It's a little braggy. It's a little they sort of name drop, name drop a little bit. They sort of puff up. I was going to do this for myself, and this mattered to me, and I needed to sign my name to this thing, and so I needed to go after that thing, right? So you're kind of seeing some of that. He's jokingly saying, I created this out of spite because I didn't get to SNL. Okay. But he was talking about how he was being spotlighted. Weird wording, right? Is that the wording a 4 would use? Probably not, right? The 22 finalists, up and comer. Okay, so listen to the language here, right? I was an up and comer and then to nothing. And so therefore I have to do something about it. And therefore I have to sign my name to something. And I will do this job. I had to write and direct out of necessity. I don't want to write. You should do it if you like writing. I don't want to write. I don't want to do that thing. So please don't make me do that thing again. But I had to do it because I was really concerned about being this up and comer to nothing. I didn't want to lose my place in the tribe climbing game. And that's one of the things that you will see from those that have flex versus friends. The friends are not going to be playing the same game as those that have flex. The flex are like, I have to work on myself. I have to be the best version of myself. And I have to actually be the one to sign my name to things. I can't wait for somebody else to give this to myself. I'll do what it takes. I'll do what it takes to make sure that myself sees myself as the best version of my own self in this way. I have to put the pressure on myself to become this inspiring character. That's sort of the difference, right? And then the friend coin, it's not going to be playing that game. In fact, if you are a 4, a lot of what you will notice in yourself is that you have maybe possibly, you might notice this, a natural disgust for elitism, that elitism might rub you the wrong way. Anytime you see somebody being like tooting their own horn, you might really get grossed out by that and really annoyed by that, right? That might be something that naturally sort of bothers you. You might have a resistance to that because your position in the tribe is sort of to kick the guy that thinks he's, all great, all has his stuff, right? Yeah, anti-flex, great way of saying it. Yes, absolutely. Very good. I'm pretty good at bragging. I'm going to brag about my ability to brag. I'm like so good at it. I love that. Sasha, you're funny. Yes, exactly. So that's exactly some of the things to keep watching for is just like when you're listening to somebody's letters or actually, a better example would be like observer versus decider. If you can actually see somebody's observer versus decider energy, where there's the nervousness. Oh yeah, right here. Very good. He's showing a bit of decider nervousness. Very good. So that's another thing to pay attention to. The NF. The NF is what you're looking for when you're seeing that nervousness of a decider energy. Like, why are they so nervous? It's like, well, they're afraid of judgment. They're afraid of being seen. They're afraid of being misunderstood. Those sorts of things come from that decider energy that the observers do not have anywhere near to the same degree. Now, you could be a play last observer and you're still going to be scared of people, but not in the same way that a decider would. You're not going to be worried about judgment anywhere near what a decider will have, right? Just a different kind of NF vibe. You can see that same thing when it comes to flex versus friends, because the flex versus friends coin is very much how we are interacting and how we are communicating our value and how we see our value to the tribe. That's very much how friends versus flex actually acts in reality, right? So he's telling us, I had to do all this stuff and I'm the one signing my name to this and I'm choosing these jobs, right? These are jobs. These are not necessarily leading. He didn't necessarily go and do some larger company out of the Peewee stuff. He sort of stuck in his lane, something to think about there, right? How long he did stick in his lane. The thing about specializing too, it's not like you can't branch to this side, to that side. You're going to be able to branch slightly here and there, but overall, you will still stay in a job category for long periods of time, right? That's something else that you kind of have to kind of pay attention to. Okay, let me keep going. I'm going to keep going. I want to hear what he says about some other stuff. So we're going to start now checking that. Are we seeing somebody that is flex versus friends? We are seeing decider energy still. We do know his 512 type. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. We have his type in the celebrity archive on the members. So we're going to keep confirming those types of things. But let's see. Are we seeing flex? Are we seeing flex? And are we seeing generalist versus specialist? Those 2 coins we're going to keep checking, right? Okay. All right, let's go back to our little video here. I'm going to make me small and we'll keep listening.
Film on the lot one day, and I complained every day when we would walk to lunch. I'd always, because everybody on a movie lot, as you probably all know, rides bikes. And so I was going, how do you get a bike? You know, no one, I'm the only person here who doesn't have a bike. And they're like, we'll get you a bike, don't worry. And one day I came back from lunch, and there was this beautiful 1947 fully restored Schwinn racer, and it was chained up to a post that had a sign with a character that said Peewee Herman bike parking only. And I looked at it and went, oh my God, like I'm writing the wrong movie. And literally, this will date it a tiny bit, ran in and pulled the paper out of the electric typewriter bigger than this table, and just started, you know, the bike. He loves the bike. And
then almost a year to the day after the movie premiered, Pee-wee's Playhouse debuted on CBS in 1986.
And that was as a result of the president of CBS Children's Programming, an incredible woman named Judy Price, approached my manager at the premiere of Big Adventure at the Chinese Theater in Hollywood and said, would he like to do a cartoon? And I got asked that at that party and turned around and without even thinking and said, I don't want to make a cartoon. I want to make a live action show based or inspired by the stage show I had, which in my mind, I had a pilot to show somebody. I could go here. It's sort of like this. And CBS like said yes without even seeing it. She said yes right there at the party. Said, wow. Yeah, fine. And they said to me in the first meeting at CBS, you can do anything you want. We'll never tell you anything. And they lived up to that. I mean, I had probably 3 notes from CBS over 5 years. The first note I got was, you can't stick pencils in potatoes. Which the very first shot of the first episode of Pee-wee's Playhouse is me sticking pencils into potatoes. So I said, why? And they went, oh, I don't know. The show is really, despite what some people have thought, the show was really a full-on kid show. And we all, the writing staff and I, took it very, very seriously. I mean, in terms of being responsible. Part of the most fun of writing that show was when me or anybody on my writing staff would think of something that we would all identify immediately as something that would kill a 6-year-old, that would make a 6-year-old fall off the couch onto the floor. That was the funniest feeling to me. The only other thing they asked me to do is we had an episode, Fire in the Playhouse episode, and Miss Yvonne says to the firefighter, he says, you should have a smoke detector in every room. And she says, I have a smoke detector in my bedroom over the bed. And it aired once. CBS didn't say one word about it, but they got 1 letter. Somebody wrote in and said they thought it was inappropriate. And so in the subsequent 3 airings, she says, and her lips aren't moving the same way, but she says, I have a smoke detector in my kitchen over the sink.
You took on a lot of different roles. Murphy Brown, you did some roles in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Pause again, and we're going to go over this. So the thing that I want us to actually focus on, let me actually get myself moved up here. The thing I want us to focus on is, who does he see himself as in the tribe? This is a really big deal. And this is something that I often think is the most important part about socials. It's not how successful you are. It's not how successful you can be. That's not what is so great about socials. That's not it at all. That's not even kind of it, right? What is so amazing about socials is that it's coming from the individual's mind and the creation and the projection from the inside of the mind to our outside reality. The assumption is that we are this player. We are this role. We are this step in the ladder. This is our responsibility. This is what our brain sees as our responsibility. So in my opinion, it feels like in certain ways, the socials give us a fixed mindset in a certain aspect of life, and a growth mindset in others. And I think that that's one of the things that becomes so unbelievably blinding and also eye-opening and fascinating at the same time to me, because of how much it's just a false narrative that our brains believe, that our brains are projecting onto reality, right? Like, it's not anywhere near accurate with reality. That's what's fascinating about it. But our brains make it so. And your brain will make it so much that it will create that reality. And so you wouldn't even know the difference, right? You wouldn't even have the ability to know the difference of whether it was true or not true. I know I'm just ST talking here, but like, it's fascinating to me how much the mind can control what is real, what ends up being real, because we make it so, right? So one of the things that I find really interesting in his language, right? Let's go down here to his language, is he said, I complained every day. Now, he's saying it in a very calm way. He's saying it in a very peaceful way. I think it's fascinating how he's saying it, because I would say that he's really lived a good life. I think he lived a life according to what his socials wanted. He had a pretty huge scandal. He moved through it just fine. He was able to sort of own it and keep going, which is really beautiful and great. I think that that's wonderful that he didn't like officially tap out and then get weird and then never come back around. Like, good for him. And I think he's been able to be at this very neutral, calm space and state, which allows us to be able to just be able to listen to him and calmly learn and hear, okay, so what you're saying at this state in your calm state is true. I don't have to go, are you trying to pull one over on me? I think you're just being honest. And he's saying, yeah, I used to complain every day. I think he did. I think he did. And why is he complaining? Right? So at some point you have to ask, who is above you in the tribe? Now, you'll have the DEs talk like people will give them permission or not give them permission, right? And that happens all the time. That's definitely the way that I speak. I speak of if I'm allowed to do something or not allowed to do something based on what somebody wants or not wants, right? But one of the things that I see from the specialists is that, especially the threes, because they have specializing at the top. This is some of the language that you will hear, is that there is the man. And this is where the protest energy will come from. I see a lot of protest energy. And that's kind of a huge categorical issue that the number threes will struggle with, because they want to have autonomy and be able to sign their name to things and do things their own way without interference. And yet, they still see that there is a man, the generalist managers and the generalist bosses and CBS and the network. They still see themselves below that umbrella category. And that's what's really fascinating. It's like, Peewee, I'm sorry, Paul Reubens, why didn't you just go get your own bike? Why didn't you just go get your own bike? Why didn't you just make that happen for your own self? Why did you see that that was something outside of your own wheelhouse to go make happen or force happen? Was there other systems at play that you thought you couldn't cross boundaries? Is what was going on there? Because to me, I was like, I got my own damn bike. I'm gonna make it. Like, really, who would have gotten in the guy's way? No one. It's the star. Like, no one would have gotten in his way. Interesting, his language too. His language was like, they're like, yeah, we'll get you a bike. You know who that sounds like to me? That sounds like a number two. That sounds like a number two. What does the guy want? What's a bike? Yeah, get him one of those. Make that happen, whatever. And then they did something very sweet where they're like, Peewee Herman, bike parking only. They made it a big deal. They amplified him and boosted him and made him feel really special, which is super great. I love that they did that. But also, like, where is he in the tribe that there is this voice, this entity above him that is somehow stopping him from letting this happen, right? And again, repeating the language, he has a manager. There's this other lady that sounds like the generalist who's pulling the strings. She said yes. You know, it's not in his control. It's somehow not in his control. Why is it not in his control? Like, she said no, but she's just some weirdo. Anyways, I'm going to go to the next person. They said no, but they're just some weirdo. I'm going to go to the next person. This is mine. This is my mission. I own this. I'm just going to keep taking it to people. And if they don't get it, then they don't get it. I'm just going to keep making it happen. Like, why isn't it his? Why isn't this power of the ability to create the systems to make this happen? Why isn't this in his hands? Why is it some other manager or some other generalist lady? Why is it CBS? And this is another thing. So I'm bringing out the negative side of this, right? It's the slightly negative side of CBS says you can do anything you want. But let's talk about slightly the positive here. He had a really good experience as a potentially number 3. He had a really good experience. He got to do this job that he really loved consistently over time. And they said you can do anything you want. They only had 3 notes. And the stick, the pencils, and the potatoes, I thought was really funny. I think it's just cute. Like, and then I did it anyway. I did it anyways, So that's something that you have to kind of look at is why is it that he's still seeing himself in this different realm? What is this different realm that he's putting himself into? CBS, the big guys, the ones that hold all the systems, the ones that hold all the strings, they said you can do anything. And he was comfortable. He was comfortable and stable, staying in this position for a very, very, very long time. Why? Because they didn't try to come in and tell him how to do his job differently than what he wanted to do. That's a pretty big indicator, and that's a pretty big success story for somebody that is a specialist. I want to be left alone, as the flex coin does, because they're self-motivated, but also you need to be the one to manage all the systems. So don't mess up that side. Just give me an arena to play in my own sandbox and let me do what I want to do. It's kind of an interesting environment because it's sort of asking for everybody to manage the weather. You manage all the weather, but I'll be in here managing the sandbox. That's what I want to have exist in reality. This is the game that I want to be playing, right? So very, very interesting. And then also, I thought was really great too, we took it seriously. And now what is he talking about there? What is he saying we were responsible for? Okay, he's talking about the type of show that it was. It was a children's show. That was their responsibility, was to write a hilarious children's show, and their audience was kids. And I want that kid to die and fall off of a couch laughing hysterically, because that's what this role is. I'm playing a role. I'm a writer. I'm an actor. I'm a performance actor as writing this role. But my entire goal is to make those kids laugh. And that's what he did. How interesting how many of these types we've seen, right? These INTP types, that when they go straight for, you know what? I think I'm going to just play the FE game. I think I'm just going to go make the tribe laugh. How well that works, like Mr. Rogers, what does he do? He just makes the children happy. When you go that direction, how interesting it is that they have success. They found a way to go towards, what if I just, instead of making an app, what if I just go towards making people happy? What if I'm allowed to go straight to Jubilee? Like, well, the ones that do a really good job at it, right? So it's very, very interesting. Okay, so I am going to do a little pause here and go over to the members area. So we're going to pause on YouTube. I was thinking we might even go, in the members area, we might talk about Alan Cummings a little bit. They're the same type, but they might be different socials. So we might talk about him a little bit in the members area. So I'm going to pause here on YouTube. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I had a really fun time. I love Paul Reubens. Paul Reubens is somebody that I feel like, I don't know. I guess it's a huge part of my childhood. I think that that's what it is. And something that you feel connected to. Yeah, I was probably one of those little kids laughing my ass off, falling off a couch. So there you go. My FI connected to him really early on. So it's good hanging out with you. Yes, bye-bye. Good hanging out with you here on the YouTubes. And I will see you guys over in the members area. If you have any questions there, let's go talk about some stuff there. Okay. So let me get rid of this. Bye, YouTube. Bye. Bye, everybody. Bye.